Welcome back to Q30 News. As the construction around the Quinnipiac campus comes to a close, there has been some exposures to various metals, which could lead to tetanus. Michael Weiner has more.
Thanks, Nick. Like you said, there have been many instances of Quinnipiac students accessing these construction sites against the warnings of construction workers. In these sites, there are many pieces of exposed metal that can cause cuts or punctures to these students. However, as dangerous as the jagged metal and the cuts and punctures they can cause are, there's another danger lurking beneath: tetanus. Although the vast majority of the United States population has been vaccinated against tetanus, there are some who are still vulnerable. Those who are still vulnerable can possibly have their life threatened if cut or punctured by these pieces of metal. I met with Quinnipiac student Brandon Schindler to get his story. So Brandon, you had ventured onto the cordoned off construction site for the new student center. Tell us about what happened.
Well, I was walking through there just to check everything out, and then all of a sudden I feel, this jagged piece of metal in my foot, and it was just, I'm like, oh, this is really not good. So I didn't really think much of it because it didn't look too bad. So it's just like I bandaged it up a little bit, and then I just didn't think anything of it until, a couple of weeks later.
And then what happened?
And then my jaw started to lock up, and I was having problems and stuff like that, and I was like, okay. And then I guess a few days later, I started having like spasms in all my muscles where my body was tensing up. I was like, oh, this isn't really good. So I got an ambulance, and then they took me to the hospital, gave me a whole bunch of meds, and put me on a ventilator. And, those kind of things saved my life.
The symptoms of tetanus can occur in about 8 days and start generally as mild spasms in the jaw. As the condition progresses, the spasms involve the entire body and can cause muscle tears and breaks. Other symptoms include drooling, heavy sweating, and urinary and fecal incontinence. So, Dr. Beck, what kind of interventions did Mr. Schindler require?
Mr. Schindler required IV tetanus immunoglobulins, as well as IV magnesium and diazepam for his muscle spasms, and we also did a tracheotomy with mechanical ventilation for his breathing.
Dr. Michael DiPasquale is a pediatrician who has administered the tetanus vaccine many times. He has received many concerns from parents about giving the vaccine to their child, however. Oh, Dr. DiPasquale, what can you tell me about the tetanus vaccine?
The tetanus vaccine is an inactivated tetanus toxoid, which is used in conjunction with the DPT vaccine, which is a combination of diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. And it is strongly suggested that you receive a booster for this every 10 years.
Okay, how effective would you say the vaccine is?
As far as we know, the vaccine is 100% effective in all patients.
Okay, and are there any side effects to this vaccine?
Generally, no, but you can experience some mild fever, some soreness, and redness around the injection site.
Dr. Catherine Blakesley is an epidemiologist working for the World Health Organization and has examined trends in tetanus incidence and vaccination. So, Dr. Blakesley, what can you tell me about the severity of tetanus infections worldwide?
Mortality rates vary depending on global location, but it's generally between 48 and 73%.
Interesting. Now, what can you tell me about the effects of widespread vaccination attempts in the United States?
After widespread DTaP vaccination in the U.S., incidence of tetanus has been reduced by 99%, and mortality has been reduced by 93%.
Worldwide, the biggest demographic for fatality are neonates and infants. However, the rate of fatality can be vastly decreased by widespread vaccination attempts, such as in the U.S. Like Dr. Blakesley said, widespread vaccination attempts have vastly reduced the amount of fatalities due to tetanus infection. This figure shows the reduction in tetanus fatalities over the course of about a century starting in 1901. The absolute best defense against tetanus is prevention via vaccination. Like Dr. DiPasquale and Dr. Blakesley stated, the tetanus vaccine is generally given in the DPT or DTaP vaccine, which contains diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. Some parents are skeptical due to the somewhat recent controversies surrounding the administration of vaccines that contain thimerosal, which is a mercury-containing preservative. Although all proper scientific studies have exonerated the necessary component from any implication as a potential agent causing autism or any other conditions.
For more information about tetanus and its vaccination, visit the websites of the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control.
So remember, get your DPT vaccine for your kids. Back to you, Nick.